Good morning, everybody, and welcome to On the Couch with ECD. My name is Shamaine Buerta. I'd like to introduce our guests for this morning for our POPI ACT seminar. So to my left, we have Mrs. Zerkia Walkinshaw. Welcome, Zerkia.
Thank you.
And then we have Mr. Gert Ehlers. Welcome, Gert.
Thank you.
And Stephanie Botha. Welcome, Steph.
Good morning.
It's such a blessing to have you all here, and thank you for joining us on the couch. Today we're going to be discussing the POPI ACT. And I think that this is going to be a very informal seminar. At the end of the day, we've always said On the Couch with ECD is supposed to be like going to a friend's house and discussing a topic like the POPI ACT in a way that everybody could understand it. So we have brought in Gert, who is a legal representative, he's a lawyer, so that we can make sure that whatever we are sharing to the best of our knowledge is what is going to happen within the POPI Act. For those of you who do not know, POPI Act stands for Protection of Personal Information Act. So here, Gert, I'm going to go over to you and maybe ask if you could just share what is personal information. If we're talking about personal information and they're saying we have to protect it, what on earth is personal information?
Yeah, so personal information has a very wide definition in the POPI Act itself. Under the definition and also under the relevant section, there are 8 categories, but in essence, it's any information of a natural person normally that is not known to the public and which is attached to that person only. For instance, to use a simple example, your cell phone number is unique and it's only yours. The same goes with an ID number. That's yours, that is unique, but also your preferences, even your opinions about someone else can be sensitive information that if shared with someone else should be protected. So it's any information that you would not like the public to get known and which you yourself as the data subject did not publicize in public.
Okay, so basically what that comes down to is if you have children in your care or at your business, in your workplace, or staff members, they're all natural people, right? So if you have any of their information, you've got their name, their surname, their cell number, their address, anything, then you have to comply with the POPI Act. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
You're right, and you can only obtain that information by consent from that relevant person. In the case where you're dealing with the information from a minor child, that's anyone younger than 18 years, with the information of both parents, I would say.
So at the end of the day with us, it's going to be, as ECD sector, we're working with children. It's going to be crucial that we look at the age and then also the compliance. So I am going to ask you, Stephanie is going to be looking at the chats on the group. So there's a space that you can go to that says you can post comments. Please make use of that. If you have questions, then she'll ask those questions to us and we will answer them as best we can. So I want to move on and I want to say, Zerkia, the people out there that have been contacting me saying, how can we be POPI compliant? What is it that we need? All of these questions have come in. But the one question that stood out for me is, must I be POPI compliant? I only have 5 children. Does this mean I have to comply? I am a franchisee. Does that mean I have to comply? I only give raga rugby, for example. Must I comply? So what is going on here with this POPI Act thing? And must we as ECDs, I mean, day mothers, caregivers, aftercares, tutor centers, anybody that's preschools, anybody, schools working with children, must we comply?
Yes, definitely. And it's not just schools. Any business, even if you are a homeowner and you're leasing your flats to whomever, you hold a contract with somebody, which means you have personal information. With that being said, with our staff members that we employ, we have their information, even medical information, allergies. That is personal information of a person. So yes, we need to comply. Even if it's 1 person, 2 people, a very, very small daycare center, a massive primary school, we all have to comply to the rules and regulations when it comes to the POPIA or POPIA Act. If you're working with somebody's personal information, which has a heartbeat, you need to be compliant with what the Information Regulation Board wants.
I don't know, but for me personally, that's very daunting. I looked at all this documentation and I looked at everything. I said, oh my word, how on this good earth am I going to be able to become POPI compliant? And how are we going to do this in time? Because there's a deadline. What is this deadline? Has anybody got some feedback on that deadline date and when we must be compliant?
Yes, so certain portions of the Act was implemented or were implemented already, but the last deadline now is on the 30th day of June 2021 this year, and that's why POPIA or the POPI Act is in the news. So by 30 June you must have at least started the process, and that was my experience with the FICA Act also. We all know is that government and the information regulator in this instance will not necessarily punish you if you are not 100% compliant by the 30th of June, but at least you must show from your side an effort and progress in getting there. So I would say a good start would be to identify where your risks are and getting your policies in order and appointing someone at least in your center or school who will start the process and take you forward.
Okay, great. So basically you need to be at least registered online by the 1st of July. Now what we're going to do is we're going to ask our amazing technician, Christian, at the end of the day to assist us. We'll be uploading documentation onto the site so that you have access to it and on our website, and then also we will be giving you links to the registry where you can go and register. It is an online registration process. I've actually done this, Zerkia. I know you've done that for the schools as well. What, in your experience, was it difficult? What must they look out for? Is there something inside that registration that we're saying everybody needs to have by the 30th of June that was so difficult that you just couldn't do it? Or what was your experience like going onto that website?
It was quite very easy. I didn't have any problems accessing it, understanding the information that they wanted. If you actually gone through the documentation from the Information Regulation Board, you know what they say by definitions, what type of company you are. Are you a private entity? Are you a government entity? How do you actually register yourself? The biggest thing that I do see, that I do get a lot of questions is when they ask me about the registrations. This website is blown up. They are struggling to actually access this. So the best time during the day would be very, very early in the mornings to try and register, and very, very late at night. And if that doesn't work, as a backup, you can still email it as well with the documentations from the IR. You can email it through. It takes a little bit longer to get your certificate, but you do get your answers back and your certificate, and then you are registered. But for a backup, maybe if you can't get your access to the online portal, start by emailing it through just to get your foot in the door and make sure that you have sufficient evidence that you have been trying numerously to get your registration through. So just keep a record of all of that and then try again.
Okay. My experience, going onto this site, there is terminology in there that sometimes it will throw you. It's something that we don't use in everyday jargon when we chat to each other. But make Google your best friend. Sit there with your cell phone, go in and just find a definition for a word if you really don't understand the difference between public entity and a private entity. Don't stop there and say, I won't be able to fill this form in. If I can do it, you can do it. It's one of those things that if you can't do it, you're not reading. It really is that easy to register. And then you will see that there on the site you can download a printable copy that you could print, and you could actually fill it in by hand and send it on. So that is the first step. Understanding we're working with everybody that's a natural person with a beating heart, and you have their information. And you guys know, at our schools and in our centres, our parents fill in an application form and they share everything except the DNA of their child. We actually have their birth certificates. We have their medical records. We have their allergies and what their doctors are saying. We are aware where they stay. We know who their parents are, who's their emergency contact. So this whole thing, in my opinion, is information is being leaked to people. And to avoid that from happening, I'm going to give a scenario. Maybe this is not a context that would ever happen to us, but say for instance you've got a child in your center and they're in protective custody. They're in this protective unit where somebody has been trying to kill their family, and you just send photos on the internet of this child, because photos are also part of the POPI Act, right, Hat? So that is included.
That's right.
And you just share this on the group, and somebody is out to kill this child, it would be your fault because you disclosed information that should have been hidden and kept in a safe place.
Even more relevant, an address. You have the addresses of the parents. So if in your example, that would be a place where a crook can go look for someone. So you've got even, I assume you've got the maiden surnames of the mothers, for instance. So we've got a lot of information already in the centres that must be protected.
How do you really think that being POPI compliant is going to be so difficult for the centres as it is now? Are they freaking out for good reason, or is there actually, are they looking at this in the wrong way?
I don't think the fear is realistic. I think you don't have to be afraid. Step one, my first step would be to stay calm and you'll realize the more you work with this, that you are already doing it. If you go read the Act, for instance, or only summaries on the internet, there are a lot of them, you'll see that some of the things are so logic that you'll even laugh at it. For instance, that you must lock the cupboard where you keep this personal information. You must put a password on your computer or laptop. That makes sense because that's where information and data can be extracted. You must not share personal information. These are things that we're already doing and that we already know. So to answer you, Charmaine, it will not be difficult. It will be very easy. And the internet is very consumer friendly, and also the portals where you must register. And there's also help available. If you just Google the POPI Act, you will see there are steps and tick boxes that you can tick, and there's always the possibility to ask questions. But the biggest mistake that people will do is to do nothing at all. You must just keep record of what you're doing, and to simplify my answer, it will be very easy to start.
Right, so we have a few things already in place at our schools and at our centres and in our homes. The first question you have to ask yourself is, you have to go and sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and say, where is this personal information? And just jot those things down, because you have to protect it. So if I need to protect somebody, I need to know who the person is I'm protecting, right? So if I have to look at personal information at a school, that parent comes in, fills in an application form, where does that thing go? And you said it, that what must our preschools and schools be doing with that document that the parents now have given us to make sure that we comply with this rule in POPI?
Lock it away in the cupboard. If you capture it on your laptop, make sure that you have a password on. Make sure when you leave your office, don't leave your laptop just lying on the table. Either take your laptop with you or lock your door before you leave your office. Very basic principles that you need to apply to this. I just want to add, with this being said, while you're busy with the security measures, the quickest way you're going to get through this is actually establish who's your information officer. If you want, you could have a deputy information officer. It just helps the schools, or any company, if there's a deputy and an information officer, because if the one is not there, the other one is also there, and there's a little bit of sharing of responsibilities, if you can say it like that. And the more people that has thoughts gathered together gets the work done quicker. So decide on your team who's the information officer, deputy information officer. From there on, register them. After a registration, do your security risk assessment. See, what do I have that is personal information, and what do I do to protect it? It's all about just the basics.
I heard you talking about an information officer and a Deputy Information Officer. Now, for people out there who have no idea what the POPI Act is, what on earth is an information officer and a deputy? It sounds like somebody I have to dub them and give them a badge. What is an information officer?
If I may answer. So the information officer is a fancy name for the individual person at your school or ECD center or whichever business you have that will be in control of the gathering of the information, the storing of the information, the processing of the information, and later, eventually, the destruction of the information or the deletion of same. So that will be the person that in your business will oversee everything related to the compliance with the POPI Act. So your information officer will make sure that the security measures are in place and that you are compliant with the Act in as far as it is possible, that your contracts with your employees and with parents are in order, and for instance the example we used, the forms that the parents fill in, that information are kept safe. So that will be the person that takes responsibility for that. You don't need to be so hands-on that all the completion of the forms and contracts will have to take place in your office, for instance. You must just be in control of that. So when you get a visit from government or from the information regulator, that you'll be able to say, what is the protocol? You are the responsible person. To use an example, there are a lot of companies who have cars that they own for business purposes, but there's a proxy or person, a natural person that can answer questions and take responsibility. The deputy is just an additional person in the company that takes responsibilities with the information officer. Obviously, the bigger your company or business is, the more deputies you need. But you will have to assess and see, I will only need an information officer, or no, I will have to need someone that will assist. It will, in my view, be a good idea if you'll have a deputy in any case, if at all possible, obviously. Because if your information officer is absent and you get a visit from someone asking questions about the POPI Act, the deputy should be able to deal with that. Once we realized that personal information these days are a commodity like gold, diamonds and things, it has value. So people sell our personal information to companies who use our personal information for marketing purposes, for instance, but there are also crooks who use our personal information for other purposes. So if once we realize that, we will realize that the less people we give access to personal information in our own company, the safer we will be.
Awesome.
I just want to jump in there with what Gert has said as well, is you don't have to employ somebody new within your organization to be the deputy or the information officer. That is quite important. I know a couple of people ask me, okay, what type of, where did they, they had to come out of university, what did they have to go and study, who needs to apply for this job? You don't create a new job opening. In our schools, there is no money at this stage to even take on more responsibility. The best advice that I can give is to make sure it's somebody that has been with you for very long, that knows the ins and the outs and the workings of your business, of the school. That person is usually the one that can really be the most informative person to get on board and to make sure that they know how your company is run, because the way you run your preschool is not necessarily the way I do mine. And your documentation is not always exactly the same as mine. There's a set standard, but some do get a little bit more than others do, and some collect a little bit less. So each company or organization has different methods of how we're going to approach this. There is no specific black on white paper that it says, okay, you need exactly this and these are the risks that your company has, because we are individuals and our companies are individuals. So you need to go and look at how you manage your center, and only according to that then you can start with your paperwork.
I would like to say on that, I do think this is important to note, what Zerkia said as well. It's not a one size fits all. So there is a warning that I would like to heed, and this might make me exceptionally unpopular with some people. Everybody everybody out there that's been contacting me is saying, but it's going to cost us 13,000 Rand and we have to appoint this person, etc., just like you were saying. It's very, very, very difficult for somebody else to understand your setup and speak to your policies that you have written and that your staff and yourself comply with. You can't get an external party. I know you could go to a lawyer, and there are things that the lawyers can do, and we will definitely also be putting up your firm's name so that people can contact you. I know you're going to be overrun with questions, Gert, but you don't have to take out thousands and thousands of rands to become POPI compliant. And I think that's the biggest message I want to send out there. Our sector is in disarray at the moment. People have lost their jobs. People had to close their centres. We're still trying to catch up, and now this third wave is hitting us. And we have PPE costs. And now, in the middle of this, ach, frak man, nou is dit nog die POPI ook. It's difficult. But I want to tell you, you don't have to pay people to do this for you. You can do this. If you can read, you can do this. Steph, do you have any questions from our viewers?
I do have a question or a statement from Marlene Slabbert saying, I'm sure if you let them sign a document saying the information has to be treated as confidential and no information can be shared without consent, it should be fine. Is that correct?
That is correct. So the term is a disclaimer, and that is important, and I'd like to put out that as well. So that is why I'm saying we can keep calm. So if you have a form that someone fills in, you'll just have to add a clause to say that what you are filling in here and providing us with is personal information under the POPI Act, and that we use it for this and this purpose only, and this is how we treat personal information. I'd like to add to that is to make your data subject, that is the parent that provides you with the information, aware of the fact that they can at any time request you to delete that personal information. And that is important. But in essence, it's very true that if there's a disclaimer that makes the data subject aware of the fact that it's personal information, and you must make sure that the information you get is given to you at free will and not by force. And that is what we are already doing. So to add on what Zirkia and Shemaine has said so far, is we're already compliant. We already have an information officer. It's the lady in your admin office more often than not. She's taking the forms, she's filing it, she's locking the cupboard, she's saving it on a computer, she's having a password. So it's just you giving a title to the admin Tanny in your office.
Okay. See, that's why I think this webinar was so important, is just to take away all the myths and all the stuff that's floating around out there and just make us understand that so many of this we have in place. But also some centres and some places out there do not have all the technology. We have rural centres as well. We have non-centre based centres. We have tutor centres where who's going to be the responsible person because people are popping in and out. That is, you'll have to have a sit down with your staff members and come up with who the IO and the DIO are going to be at the end of the day. You said that it is important to delete or to get rid of or to destroy. Those are the words that I heard, Gert. What do you mean by that? What am I deleting? What am I destroying?
So a data subject, and that's the parent in our instance that will give you information, may at any time say, for instance, my child is no longer in your school, for instance, and for this reason, I no longer need you to have my child's ID number, photographs, my telephone number, whatever the case may be. Maybe stupid examples we're using now. But this and this kind of specific personal information, I want you to get rid of it. And you, as the organization that deals with personal information, are supposed to destroy that in whichever form you have. To add what you say, Shemaine, so in some instances, the people who don't have a lot of technology are also in a better position to protect, because you only get information in one way only, and that's on pen on paper, the old-fashioned way. And to secure that is in certain aspects easier than to protect computer and data information. So it's very true what Shemaine says, it's not a one-size-fits-all. And that's why step one is to sit for a moment, an hour or so, and say, and start, where does information enter my center and my business, and where does it go after that? Once you've established that, you will know exactly what to do with that to protect it.
Okay, great.
Charmaine, sorry, just on that, one of the questions that they wanted to say and that they mentioned is, how do you now manage WhatsApp groups where parents are on and where we can see each other's telephone numbers and information? Would it then still be sufficient to just have a disclaimer?
If I can answer that, it would be more than sufficient. Remember that WhatsApp is just a platform, a social media platform where one can communicate. Now, the POPI Act is very clear on this, that it only protects personal information which has not been publicized. The moment that you join a WhatsApp group and on your profile or in one or two of your messages, you share your personal information, for all practical purposes, you publicize that. But as the group admin, I would still advise whoever is the group admin or in control of the group to put up a disclaimer, maybe once a year, or as someone joins, provide that person with the policy or disclaimer saying, remember, whatever you publicize on this group will be seen by the 35 people on this group. And there might be people who have access to their phones. So only share information that are absolutely necessary for purposes of this group. And we should try to avoid using, for instance, WhatsApp or social media platforms to source the personal information, unless if everyone agrees that whatever information they share here will be for the public eye. You must realize when you join WhatsApp or a WhatsApp group specifically, whatever you publicize there can be in the carte blanche on the next Sunday. If you make racist comments, for instance, on WhatsApp, you can't go and say, oh, this was a private group. The moment that you post a racist joke, you've publicized it. So WhatsApp groups, we need to be careful about WhatsApp groups, but we don't need to be scared. We can still use that platform, but it's just like two people talking or 5 people in a group. It's just a method of communicating. But as the WhatsApp group admin, just put on a disclaimer to say that information that you share here will be used for this and this purpose. Don't share what you deem personal.
I just want to touch on that as well. When it comes to the disclaimer, now for your organization, you have to write basically a code of conduct and a manual as to what your policies and arrangements is. And each, you're going to have your own manual. So in there, where it comes to your disclaimers, you can say for what the disclaimer, why you're putting it in place, and then as well, retention of the information, how you're going to get rid of the information, how long you're keeping it, etc., etc. So with your disclaimers, especially with WhatsApp as well, it's good to have, because that you can put in your policy for your company and say, we do have a WhatsApp disclaimer, and this is in our policy, to make double sure, because you need to inform whomever is on the group or whatever, they have access to your policy. That is why it's very important, if you do have a website, to actually put up your policy of your organization on there, so whomever has questions, they can have a look at your policy and see what it entails. For what do you gather the information? Why is it being stored? How do you actually delete it? What do I need to do as a third party to get my information off their platforms, or I wish to delete them at the end of the day? So which forms do I complete? All of that you put onto your websites, or have it, if you don't have a website, have it available in your offices to make the request and get it over and done with. With the WhatsApp groups, just remember that yes, you're working with mommy and daddy and everyone on there, and it's adults. With the POPI Act, there is a little bit more specifics when it comes to young children under the age of 18. So don't go, even if it's a class group, go and share today's grade 1's first day of school, every 28 learners' photos on the group. Send it individually to the parent, not on the group. If you need to send out information, don't take a photo of the class list and place it on the group with all of the learners' information on there, their date of birth, their names, their surnames, their race, gender, age group, class. Just think about relevant information and not specifically to put on information of the learner itself. Rather do that individually with the parent and send out a message to them and say there's important information that I will be sharing with you, please have a look out for it. So as a general rule, just be careful of what you publicize about learners on the group, and don't give Charmaine's number to Steph on the group. They can either see it for themselves because it's public, or you need to ask permission for it, even if it's an adult. So just be careful about the little small things in between with the children.
Something that I want to say regarding the WhatsApp groups is you now have one place where you can actually get your information and your contract basically with the parent in order, and that's with your application form. So your disclaimer should be in your application form. Your POPI ACT agreement with that parent that I am going to take photos of this child must be in line with the Children's Act that says that any photo or video or sound recording, whatever, that's taken of this child will be in the best interest of the child and to promote their well-being. It will not be them being hit in the face with a pie and that's posted everywhere, because that will be to the detriment of the child's emotional stability and well-being. So you have to be very careful the way the disclaimer is put up onto your forms. But you have a WhatsApp group rule that you put into your application form. Then nobody can come back at the end of the day and say, I did not know. Because you gave them that form, you gave them the opportunity to complete it. It was there. And you then don't have to have 1,000,000 extra little forms that are added.
Yeah, that's very important, Charmaine. I wanted to say that don't go and draft or let someone draft you a WhatsApp policy, a Twitter policy, an email policy. Have one policy that deals with all information, and where WhatsApp has specific requirements or rules pertaining to your WhatsApp groups, just one paragraph or 2 paragraphs dealing with that. So there will be people out there who will scare you and who will want you to have a policy for each and every aspect to make money out of you. But you have one simple policy, one form, even a single form that deals with all the personal information in general, how it will be dealt with, and then you're already safe enough.
Steffi, something else?
Yes, there are many questions coming in now. I'm going to try and group them. One of the questions that came up after you spoke earlier is in terms of the destroying information, how do we go about that? And isn't it so that you have to keep information for 5 years?
Yeah, so that's a very important question, and we expected that. So, for instance, in my business, I have to keep information for 7 years in an archive, but it must be kept safely there. So where there are acts that are in conflict with one another, the information that you keep and store for 5 years is to comply with other legislation with government. So then when a parent or someone asks you to destroy that, you say, I will destroy the information that I'm not supposed to have additionally, but in terms of this and this act, I'm supposed to keep this academic records for 5 years. So I'll store it, I'll keep it safe, I will give you an undertaking not to publicize it without your consent, but to comply with legislation, I will have to comply and store it. So it's impossible to delete. There will be certain things that you cannot delete because you will commit a crime on the other side. And that's not what the POPI Act wants you to do. It's only personal information that will not be necessary to be stored. For instance, we know that personal information can even be your opinion about someone. Let's say someone said, here's my opinion about Donald Trump, to use a simple example. If he asks you later to destroy that because he changed his mind, you can destroy that. You don't have to store that opinion or view about someone. Now the question is also how you go about in destroying it. The obvious answer is it depends on in which format you have it. If you have it only on paper form, you can either burn it, shred it, or get rid of it so that no one else can have access to it ever again. If it's in electronic format, involve your IT people to, if you don't do it yourself, to assist you in how to destroy that. So no one else, the purpose of destroying it is so that a third party cannot have access to your information.
And
I
remember, the digital footprint is very, very difficult to erase. So if you keep things on a server, for instance, to get yourself covered there, so you're not 100% able to destroy everything in a digital platform, because it's saved upon a cloud, upon a cloud, upon another cloud.
Backup upon backup.
So it's quite difficult. So when you do your deleting as well, I think we had this discussion the other day. He said, just indicate to say, to the best of your knowledge and abilities, you have done everything that you know, and you've deleted everything you know. And when it comes to retention of the documents as well, if I look at the administration part and the financial part of a school, in section 21, it states as well, we should keep our cash receipt books for at least 7 years. If we look at our audit reports, it's also 7 years. If we look at our children's POAs,
Portfolios of assessment,
it says 5 years in general, but it depends if the learner is still in your care. So if, let's say, mommy enrolled little Pete in grade R, I'm not going to destroy his information after 5 years because he's still in our school. He hasn't reached grade 7 yet. Only after grade 7, I'm going to start counting down my clock for 5 years. Because whenever he goes to high school, university, and they need a track record of what has happened, let's say he had a little bit of additional help from different sources, we would be necessary to apply that or give it through to them at the end of the day. So go and look at what types of documents you have and why it's necessary to keep them. You can't go and burn your receipt book after 3 months because the policy says burn it after 3 months, and now you have to give it to your bookkeeper, and now taxes on your sash once your income. So don't just look at what the POPI Act says. Go and look about just basic common sense.
Yeah. I also feel at the end of the day, when it comes to the policy, your school is supposed to have a policy. Now you say, I'm a day mother, I only have 4 children, why must I have a policy? Because if you, say for instance, you are 2 staff members at your daycare center, and you are ill, the other person has to conduct business as if they were you. That's what your policy does. It gives you a standard operating kind of protocols for everything. This is how we handle new applications, this is how we do notices, this is what happens when somebody is ill, this is the POPI thing. And you have it all up here. You know, Tanisari's been doing it for 35 years, but where's the paperwork? Now suddenly she brings Stephanie on board. Stephanie is working there, but she can't speak to the policy. And she does whatever she feels is right because there's no paperwork. So a good business, any business, has a policy. Who writes the policy? The owner of the business, because your policy is your heart of your business. It speaks to, this is my feeling, and this is my opinion, and this is how I want this, and this is the rules, and this, it puts everything in line. So if one of the people watching does not have any grasp on what a policy entails, what advice could you give them? Can they go see somebody? Could they find a generic model online and edit it? What type of backup is there for people that don't have the money to pay 13,000 Rand for a POPI Act compliance policy?
If you don't have the money, I'll spend money on data or go to an internet cafe or ask someone to assist you. There are a lot of examples out there that you can use, and you can just customize it to serve your business. So I would not personally spend lots of money if you don't have a lot of sensitive information, if your business is not too complex. So there are a lot of examples out there. There's a lot of people that will help you without spending a lot of money from your side. So there are a lot of forms that you can use, and you can just say, I'm not dealing with this type of information in my business, I can take that part out. Some of your forms, most of you guys' forms will already have that clause that will deal with the confidentiality of information and so on. So what Shemaine said is very important. We're already doing all this stuff, but government just wants us to put it in writing and to file it somewhere so that it's consistent. And it is a good business practice as well, because a written document helps you to treat people fairly and consequently. Because some parents might have different attitudes than other parents, and then they will say, oh, but Auntie Sari treats my personal information like this and the neighbors like that. And you say, no, sorry, we work with this policy, look at clause 8, this is how we deal with ID copies. So I deal with everyone consequently. And that also protects you when someone pays you a visit to see if you're compliant. You can show them the documents. They're not interested if you know the act by heart and it's in your head, because the head is attached to a body that can die. A document can be filed and live forever.
Very, very true. Steph, any other questions?
Lots of questions coming through. A big question here is, what about parents who don't pay their accounts and you have to hand them over to a debt collector now, which implies you have to give their personal information. Is that part of your initial disclaimer that you give to the parents and say that you consent that I can do this?
I just want to jump in with that one. That was one thing I've discussed in various meetings, and that is, you have a contract with your parents that says legally I am paying for a service. If they do not pay, it means that they are the service
In breach of contract,
Yes.
yeah.
So you don't actually need the parents' consent to hand them over, because they are in breach of your contract and it's a service agreement. And remember, your school doesn't fall under the Credit Act. You're not a credit provider. You pay for a service. So they can't be in arrears for 6-7 months and they can pay it off as you do with your Mr. Price account. So no.
But don't you think it would be good to, in your application form, just state that in the event that this account is not paid, this and this will happen to you, and this is how we handle this, which will also then refer back to your policy on your financial policy of your school. Somewhere, just that disclaimer that says, this is our protocols. First we phone you, then we send you an email, then we phone you again, and then if you don't comply, then we hand you over to whichever third party.
In your application form, should be there, number one. And number two is you always refer to your registration process. So you're supposed to have a policy at any school, preschool, primary school, wherever you go. What do you call it?
A prospectus almost.
No, sorry, I'm not getting to that word now. To register a child, you need a policy to say what is the standards for registering, so that they know that we have, for instance, we have Christian values, and this is what we'll be teaching the learners, where it's your mission and vision and so forth. So in your policy, it also would state, and that is where your application form actually comes from. It comes from your school's policy, and that is why your application form is there. So somewhere there, usually it's your parents' details, then it's the learners' details, then we come to allergies and medical things, and then we talk about previous schools that you were in, and after that we talk about finances, and where we say, how can you pay for the service? You can either do it on a monthly basis, a term basis, yearly basis, and this is what the expectancy is for you as the parent, and how you're going to actually be part of the school. So it's supposed to be in there. You can't really say it's under a disclaimer. It's part of your policy and it's part of how it works.
I would definitely list the collecting of outstanding school fees or debts as one of the reasons why you are collecting personal information. If you disclose that to the parent from the onset, and he and she will agree that you can use my personal information to collect debt from me in an instance where I don't pay, you won't run into any problems. Excuse me. But what we must keep in mind, providing that information to attorney or debt collector, under the Act, that attorney or debt collector will for all practical purposes be an operator. That's a definition in the Act. That's someone that deals with personal information that you get. And they must maybe just sign with you an agreement that the information that you as the centre or school give to the attorney will only be used for debt collecting purposes, and not to name and shame someone on Facebook, for instance.
Yeah.
So that's something important. But any information that we give, as long as the parent knew and signed that they gave you the information for schooling purposes, but in the case where they breach the contract and don't pay you, that information will be given to someone else purely for collecting the debt to comply with your contract. You won't run into problems.
I also know that you were talking about the operator, and I know if you go read the act, it could be extremely confusing because you have to apply for information and then they can get an answer that says no, and then there's an appeal. I mean, after reading that, I was so confused. How does that impact us as a sector? Must we do all of those things, or is it only certain information that will apply to? Is it going to be for every single thing? So now this person needs something, must I go and send a form and the person signs it and I send it back? Or is it really only, if I'm thinking about Department of Health or Department of Social Development, we're in the midst of COVID. So Department of Health will contact us, how many of your children have had COVID? Can we have their information? Am I allowed to share that, or must I go through that whole Form 2 of the POPI Act to get this going? What is happening there?
My short answer is no, you don't have to go through all those processes. When government asks you, or a police officer asks you for certain information for his investigation, so the test and the short answer is if the information you've been requested is for governing purposes, if the government, in short, is asking you for that and to comply with other legislation and requirements, you can give out that information. The parents should be aware of that, but you can also put that part in your disclaimer as well to be double safe, to say that if the Department of Education is going to ask me your ID number, I will provide it, or the gender of your baby, I will provide that to them. So the purpose of the POPI Act in general is not to override all other acts, it's to codify it and to summarize it, how we deal with information. So information that you give government is not confidential and cannot be protected. You cannot use the POPI Act to say, oh, you can't give out my personal information to a police officer to ask me where I'm hiding. So in short, you don't have to go through all that forms, but the reality is this. Just like with previous legislation, where there are forms and precedents, a lot of water still needs to run into the sea, and it will be on a trial and error basis. We will test it. There will be people taking matters to court and say, you gave my information to the minister of so-and-so or to his department, you didn't fill in that form, and then a court will say, if there's any confusion, I want to make it 100% clear that certain information that's required by government needs not go through this process and this process. So the Act is something that's a living thing, that's open for amendment and change as time goes by. Loopholes will appear, it will be closed. So in short, don't panic too much about the fancy terms and so on. Ask yourself which information I'm giving, which the government can in any case get themselves. You will be able to share that.
But can I give them everything? Like Zerkia said just now, don't give the whole class list. Because on our class list, we're supposed to have their surname, all three of their names, their date of birth, their gender, if they're half day, full day. Everything is on there. Even sometimes ID numbers are on there. Now the department says, how many children do you have in the Firefly class? Can I just give that class list?
No, because, and that's a very important question. So one way to protect yourself is to ask, and I'm speaking to the information officer. Ask for the person or the government body asking you for the information. Why do you need this? For what purpose? And then you'll know, you'll get a good idea what I should share. So if they ask you, how many pupils do you have in your school, age 7 years or younger? They're only asking you that, so just answer them that. If they ask for the additional ID numbers, you can provide them with that. The golden rule is not to give all the information they physically ask for, but nothing more. If you have to add, and by the way, here are the sexual orientations or the addresses of all the parents, that will not be necessary and you'll get into trouble. So ask firstly the purpose the person asking the information for is, and also what they're going to use it for. You only give that, nothing more.
Zekia, with the third-party operators, I'm thinking of schools now. We use a system called SA SAMS, which the government asked us to use. So on there, we have really, you only need to spit on the screen, then they've got your DNA. Everything of the child is there. as well as all the marks that they're obtaining, any of their disciplinary measures that have been taken against them, any of those. And I know there are other third-party operating systems like this out there that people are actually paying monthly to get. It's an administrative system that collects all the information for you. How will this impact SA SAMS and POPI? I know you did a lot of research on that because our school has that as well. What did you come up with there?
At the end of the day, it's not going to have a huge impact on it. First of all, I know that they are currently working on the SA SAMS system, so it's a little bit more secure and more encrypted. But let's go back to what Gert said now. When the government needs some information, we are linked. SA SAMS is linked to the Department of Education, which is a government institution. It's the same as DSD. We'll be moving over with SA SAMS for DSD for younger learners as well. So at the end of the day, they just need to make sure that their service to a server to where all of the information is run to, that is secure and encrypted. But that is not going to be our responsibility. Our responsibility is going to be that I have the program now on my laptop. What should I do? Close my laptop when I'm not working with it. When I leave my office, either take it with or lock it up. Make sure it's protected. That's it. That's all you're going to do. You don't need to worry about what's going to happen if there's a data breach and it leaks from the Department of Education server because the server has been stolen. That is not going to be your problem. You have done everything possible from your side to protect the information.
That's another question, Gert. Now, our staff members have laptops. So they've got personal information of our staff and our children and everybody on their laptops because they go home and they're marking stuff and they put that on their laptops or they're busy working on there and they have to, that happens. Any organization has this. Now they drive, they stop by KFC and they can't go through the drive-through window, so they pop out and somebody steals that laptop. Who's responsible? What now about if that data comes out? What will happen to this organization?
I want to take one step back. So that's where training of your employees is very important. That they understand my laptop is not only worth the plastic and the software it's made of. The information on my laptop has value or potential value to third parties who will try and get that information at all costs. So if they realize that, and if there should be a policy dealing with how we work with laptops and computers and other devices. Remember, our smartphones are also computers in essence. So the policies must be in place how we deal with laptops. So when you go to a car wash, they ask you to take out the valuable items from your car. A laptop is a valuable item. But now the value, since the POPI Act came into operation, the value more than doubled because the information, there's a value to that information, and now there's also a risk that you'll get a fine. So to answer your question, it will depend on the circumstances. The question will always be, did the employer take all the steps, the boss, the ECD center, take all the steps to try and avoid a situation like that? If there's a policy that says, guys, we're only taking laptops if it's absolutely necessary, and if you do so, please keep it on you like a firearm because it's got value. Then you, as the employer, took the necessary steps, and it's in the manual that all employees sign or in their contract. If they are then reckless, they can be held liable. But if you don't have a policy in place and your employee tells government, but I didn't know that the information on my computer is valuable or that I should keep it safe, then you might be held liable as well. So the golden rule is to make sure that all your employees understand why it is important to keep a laptop or device safe and what the value of the information is and what the risks are. If you tell an employee what the fines are, they will realize for the most serious transgressions of the POPI Act, it's a fine of up to 10 million or 10 years in imprisonment. I don't think anyone will get that, but on the lower end, it's even 1 million rand or 1 year imprisonment. But we'll see how the courts deal with that. But that in itself, no one wants to spend a day in jail because you lost a laptop, because you've been reckless. So the moment that your employees understand the risk related to that, just like there's a risk of losing it when you lose a firearm, the same risks there if you use a computer. If you put the policies in place, as an employer, you'll be safe.
Now, with that, I just want to add as well, the policy, you do have the policy that you will provide to your staff members about what is POPI and POPIA and how does it work. And we work with sensitive information, number one, and we work with more sensitive information because they are under the age of 18, and there is a little bit more to it when it comes to the learner's information. So when you put that into your manual, I made a manual for our school, and then I made just a clause within their contract to help them, and then I'll provide them with training. It's just to make sure that they understand that yes, the laptop that you are using might be your own personal laptop. So we get it that you'll have to go from point A to point B because it's your personal one, but there is school-related information on them. Then we just look at basic things like encryption, which is not going to cost you an arm or a leg. It's actually part of the program that you are running currently on your computer. We are going to look at just a basic password when you switch it on and it goes da-da-da-dum and your home screen pops up. Just before your home screen pops up, just add a password at least. And then, like I said, store it away, lock it away. When you leave, clean desk policy, or like he said, carry it with you, on you, and then you know you're going to be safe. So basic principles.
Yeah, so I kind of feel that we've over-exaggerated the whole POPI ACT thing. We've made it so complex, and we're looking at this act and we're trying to tick off the list. You'll never be able to be 100% POPI ACT compliant. There's no way. But to the best of your ability and with the means that you have, because all of us are different. Some people will have computers, some people, like Fat said, will have paperwork, some people will have all of these abilities. You have to make sure that you use what you have effectively to protect people's information. That's what it comes down to. So I also feel it's very important to understand that we look at these fines and things and we think, oh, they're going to close us down, 10 million rand, what. It's like anything else. There's a difference between stealing a chappie and breaking in or raping somebody. The fines are different and the sentences are different. With POPI, it's going to be the same. And I also don't think, remember, we don't know because it's only coming into play really on the 1st of July. It will, like Fat said, change up, and we will start understanding that if this is the rule broken, this will be the penalty to that rule. It comes down to that at the end of the day. If somebody then comes there and everybody in every group never puts a password on, they're going to fine a certain amount for passwords not being on your computer. Serkia, you said that you could find encryption because everybody's looking and they just see dollar signs. This is going to cost me so much money. Can you get this stuff for free somewhere? Because if it was me and our schools not having money, I would like to know where then can I get this stuff?
Yes, it's actually part of your Windows 10 program that you're currently, depends on which version you're running, but it's available on your laptop or computer that you have now, on your Windows Microsoft
What's
program.
It called?
BitLock.
BitLock.
But you will find it under your security settings, but I did ask our IT guy just to give me a brief because I don't speak IT at all. So he had to break it down in English, Afrikaans and different versions for me to understand how it actually works. So he is actually writing it down for me step by step, making it easier for me to understand so we can actually share it with you step by step. Where do I find it? How do I encrypt my laptop or my desktop that I have, my USB drive, and then my external hard drive? Just a quick one on that. Remember your backups that you have, please. Just a major thing is don't keep it on site. Even if you lock it away, I've seen people running with safes that they just break it out and they have the whole safe. So don't leave it on the premises, your backups. Make sure that it's on another premises at least and it's in safeguarding.
Of course, because if it's going to burn, if the building burns down, then you've lost your backup as well. So it's always good to keep your backup off-site. What I did throughout the whole of lockdown, you guys that have been following on the couch during lockdown, you would see that I had all this IT stuff that I had to do and I had no idea what I was doing. And as I said just now, Google really became my best friend. I went onto YouTube They've got so many things going on YouTube. I didn't know what on earth I was doing. I just saw that little magnifying glass, and I knew if I click here, somebody's going to find some or other answer. So if you really don't know how encryption works, you can type in there, please show me how to encrypt files on my computer, and it will share a video with you. Some of them are Indian videos, and you really don't understand what's going on, but some of them are, if you just take the time, and you're going to have to take time because you're going to have to train your staff in the POPI Act. And you're going to have to understand it. So you're going to have to read, you're going to have to watch a few videos, you're going to take back and look at this webinar and see, okay, if I've got this, I've got that, then I'm going to be okay. As I said just now, we will never be 100% compliant. We're not superhumans, but we can try to the best of our ability. Do you have any other pertinent questions?
I do. There's a lot of schools are asking, what about posting photos of the children on our Facebook pages for our social media? How do we go about dealing with that? That is a big question. Many people ask, please can you clarify? Because obviously that's a way of showcasing your school. Another question that also came through is, if a parent asks you to delete information about them, but they still owe you money, what do you do now? Because somehow you know you're going to be handing them over at some stage, but they still owe you money. Those are two big questions that if you can answer that will be great.
The short answer for the photographs is the same with all other information. You will, in your application form, say, in bold, kindly take note that we use photographs for marketing purposes and other related purposes on our Facebook and social media pages. If you would like your children's photographs not to be used, kindly indicate, tick on this box, and then it's going to be extra admin, but we'll just know Gert's son must not appear on any photographs. So, but that will be the minority of people. And then the question about people owing your money and personal information, well, the Act says if they ask you to delete certain personal information, you have to do that. But on the other hand, if you have to use that personal information to collect it, we will go back to the disclaimer on your application form to say, irrespective of the fact, well, this information will be used for collection purposes also to collect debt. So if a parent like that is saying, I know I owe you money, but it's still in dispute, but please delete all the personal information, including my home address, your response will be, remember, you gave me certain information, and one of the purposes is to collect debt from you. We're busy with that process. Up until we reach the stage that that process has been dealt with and finalized, I will unfortunately not be able to do it.
If you think about just going to court and there was whatever happened and there's evidence on the table, then the he's going back to jail, but he would like to take whatever evidences remain. He would like to take it with him now. So it's an easy way to get rid of the evidence. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. The idea is there that, yes, he would like his information to be deleted, but until it has not been closed, the case hasn't been closed, that cannot happen because it needs to remain open with all evidence, because we need the financial records throughout the process to see how long has he actually been owing school fees, how much has he been paying, etc., etc. So you need access to that information at the end of the day. So you can't continue.
You can tell that parent, the sooner you pay the outstanding fees, the
Sooner
sooner
I'll
the
delete
information will be done.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to say on the photographs, it really is pertinent to look at the type of photographs that you're going to be posting. As I said just now, it shouldn't break the character of the child at all. And then also, it is important that in your disclaimer, we have a POPI ACT disclaimer in our application form. It states there, like Had said, we will be using this for marketing or whatever the case might be. But we state there because the parent just wants, they're concerned. Those moms and dads know there are pedophiles and stuff out there, and they're concerned what's going to happen to my little baby's face. You know, so it's important to say to them, I'll be using this, but we will make sure that whatever we are posting would be to uplift this child and not to break them down. It really is important, because all a mommy and a daddy wants to know is my child is being cared for and their best interest is on this place that I'm leaving them's heart. So that for me is very, very important.
And looking at what the kids have on, what they're dressed in. For instance, we have a fun day and everybody comes with their swimming costumes. Please don't post pictures like that on. Children in their swimming wear is not allowed, number one. Number two is, if you see little Pitty bending down, tying his shoe, you actually want to photograph it for his mom. It's the first time he got it right, doing his shoelaces, but his pants is just a little bit dropped on the back side. Make sure you at least post a nice clear photo of everything except that piece at the back.
So that's something that you'd personally send. I mean, you do have all the parents, and we have a problem at the moment. Remember, with COVID, we are not supposed to have a lot of paperwork. We know that it can be transmitted from surfaces, so we don't like to take money at schools, and we don't like forms to be filled in. We have a more of a digital approach to things. So now we're sitting with the only way for us to really communicate with our parents who can't come into the site, it's difficult. There's difficult stuff happening because of COVID. We have to share on WhatsApp groups and Telegram groups and all of these things. Just make sure you're covered. As they said, protect yourself, put a disclaimer on and say, please note that this is public, it's going to be public for this group, for this class, and if there's any concerns, do contact us or remove yourself.
Yeah, I like to add, if the invitation is open to the parents to say that, personally I feel that pictures can be open for interpretation. You might think it's cute and very nice, but the parent might say, I don't like my child to be portrayed in this way. So if there's an invitation open to parents, say, but please feel free at any stage, if you see a picture of your child being publicized which you are not comfortable with, to contact us. We will immediately remove it and even apologize. We didn't mean to do you any harm.
Good.
You are more than safe.
Good. And just a reminder to everybody studying, we've got a large group of people at EduX that are studying, and you will see even in our training manuals, we ask you, it says, POPI ACT permission as a student. You have to go, if you have subjects or children that you are going to take photos of, that you have to put in as evidence that this child hasn't got the correct pencil grip. If you have to take a photo of the face, try and avoid the face, but if you have to take a photo of the face, either you have permission from the parents to put it into your file, or you cover the face. You put a sticker on, or you take a marker and you disclose the face, you just close it up. But you have to know that you can't study at any university, any tertiary institute, and just take photos of the children that you're working with, left, right, and center, without permission. You too, as a student, have to be POPI compliant.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Steph, is there something else?
Yes. What about cameras in the school? If there's an incident and a parent wants to see the footage, is that allowed?
With CCTV footage that I looked into this because we have CCTV. That's all part of your policies, and there is there's certain steps that you will be taking. So first, it will go under investigation and see, okay, somebody brought something up, or you want to go and see what incident took place. The information officer or the dedicated members that works with that in your policy will be the people that has access to it first of all. Then after that, remember, the POPI Act is there to protect our children as well. It's the same as when there is a child that is being beaten or abused or bullied, and we get the Department of Social Development involved, or we get the police involved, whatever. I don't need permission from the parent to get whomever involved to make sure that that child is safe, and to make sure that they are fine, or to phone an ambulance to come and collect them for whatever medical reason. The same goes for the CCTV footage. You must first, like you said, go and look in what light it is, and then according to that you need to take a decision on it. And whatever it is, you can't give the person a hard copy of it. Remember, it still remains the school's property at the end of the day. It's there just as evidence purposes.
Yes, I would be very careful, for instance, to give the video footage or anyone access to the video footage who is not a law enforcement officer or investigating officer, because one parent might use that information and share it, make it public, without the permission of the parent of the other child involved, for instance, in an incident. And you, as the information officer, was the source of that video, you can get in trouble. So to communicate directly to the parents and clearly and say, look, you can have a look at this, but I'm not going to give it to you if before investigations have not been finalized, or go and obtain a court order forcing me to give it to you, because then you comply with a court order. So I don't try to be funny, but there are other children, minor children in this video, or information that's confidential, and there's a potential that it will leak. Get a court.
Yeah, and what they see, I've seen this in the school myself, where I've seen something on the camera and this is the way the learner acted. And when I showed this information to the parent of the learner, they took it completely differently, and for them it was a massive joke because he was just playing around, kicking and screaming and doing funky things with someone else's private property, which a tablet got destroyed in. He didn't see the learner at fault.
So they interpret things
It's
differently.
open for interpretation.
So that's what makes it very difficult. And that is if they have access, or you show to them and they say, okay, but I want to show the stream because he said he did this and this and this, and they record it themselves, then that becomes a problem because it leaves doors open for
It
other
could
things
leak.
to
It
run.
could go out.
Over
eh?
and above that, that video footage can be used for defamation purposes, and it will do your own business damage. They say ABC school allowed this child to break my child's cell phone, and you will suffer damages. So as the information officer, you'll say, I'm not comfortable giving you to this because I'm the person responsible for this personal information. Let an investigating officer come and investigate it, or get a court order with certain provisions.
And make sure you delete footage after whatever reason.
In your policy, you
So-
state how long you're going to keep it and delete it after that.
That's right.
I have a question here. We've been talking a lot about the learner and the parent, but what about our staff? We have their information. I've got ID copies. I take photos of my staff. We are in June. We're going into July. Must I give them new staff contracts? Could I just add an addendum to say this is the POPI? Must I bring them in for training? Is there a circular that I can send out? What on earth can I do now? Because we're in the middle of the year, having to redo everything to all the parents out there, and then also to all our staff. Is there a shorter way to make sure we are compliant presently, and then for future reference maybe adjust our forms so that, and our contracts? Is there something in the interim that we could do?
Yeah, so employees or staff is a very interesting topic. First and foremost, go and assess your own situation at your school or center and see what will you have to do. An employee shares personal information of that employee because he or she is a natural person. She shares her or his personal information with you as the school owner or the school. So you have to have a policy what you do with that information. But obviously you will also just use that information for your employee-employee relationship, and you don't have to do a new contract. You can just add an addendum, or I would say even, and this is what I've done at my firm, is to send out in different formats and in different a policy. Look, the information that we have of you and new information that we can get from you as an employee will be dealt with in this way. By signing this, you're aware of this policy, and here's the website where you can also go and read the policy. That's the first side. The other side is your training is important because your employees also deal with, and we've touched it, information that they gather on your behalf and process on your behalf from your clients, who are the parents and the children. And these are the consequences. Also acquaint yourself with our policy in that regard.
Should we then send out a circular now to our staff with the policy, and a circular to our parents to say we are registering to become POPI ACT compliant? This is what it entails. Please sign this, that you are aware, because these things that we're talking about in putting into your application form, for example, is not there presently. So they need to be made aware of every one of those details that we'd like to have in the forms, and then they just sign off, and then that's just added to their...
So now I understand your question. So send out a circular, I would say, to say we are in the process of becoming POPI compliant. It is a process. That's what government requires from us. So in the near future, we might want you to come in, or when you come pick up a child, to sign a disclaimer, which is an addendum to your existing contract, an annexure to say that over and above the terms that we've agreed upon, here are some extra terms. I am sure that 99% of all contracts with your parents say that the contract is a written contract and will not be amended unless if put in writing. And this is now what it's for. Now we're amending it by mutual agreement between the parent and the school to comply with POPIA.
And with that, if you refer them, you need a privacy policy. That is one of the main things you need. If you refer them to your privacy policy, they can read and go through it by themselves and have it with them. And then with your staff, like you said, training with your staff is really important, because at the end of the day, the IO is the person that's going to be held most accountable, to make sure that they do understand what they need to do to make sure that everything goes along smooth, and to make sure that they don't get into trouble, because they work with our children each and every day. I think with our school, what I'm planning to do is to actually have my information of my deputy information officer with all of my admin and then my HODs, and have a training session with them, and then moving on to the rest of the staff members, because even my HODs have more information that they collect than the teacher, for instance. The same goes to my admin. So I basically just went into levels with the groups and said, okay, what is it that my teachers need to know with my assistant teachers? What is the most important things? I don't want to overwhelm them. They're already overwhelmed, and I know I was very overwhelmed when this whole thing with POPI came out. So I'm just going to discuss and train them up on the basics of what is their responsibilities, and how can we ensure that they they understand their responsibilities and how to abide by them. And what is our responsibility as the school management? What is our duties and responsibilities towards our staff members to ensure their safety of their personal information? So it goes both ways. And then just train them up in that way. And then in my policy I said, once a year we'll have a refresher, look at what happened throughout the year, because you need to report in any case each term to the IR, which you're going to send in and say, this is how many third-party sub-operators, operators has asked for some information, and you need to have a destruction list on how many documents have you destructed, how many documents was amended, etc., where they want actual proof of that. Then, after doing and going through this process, because it's going to change, once a year, we're just going to have a refresher's course to make sure that everybody's still on base. Whatever changed in that year, they know now, and then we implement it and move forward until we reach our end goal.
So it's going to be a process, and it's going to be a learning curve for all of us. And some of the stuff we're going to keep, some of it we're going to throw away, some of them we'll never even have access to or ever use. It comes back to basics. Make sure you keep people's personal information safe. Only share the information that you really have to share, and know with whom you're allowed to share it. And make sure that you have an addendum or a contract or something. And then even on your emails, we've added that now to the bottom of our emails. We've put a disclaimer to say that if this reaches you, and it wasn't supposed to reach you because emails do go to the wrong addresses, please destroy it, delete it, do not have it there. So small things that you could implement and put into place will make you POPI compliant.
Yes.
And Steph, I don't know if you have one or two more questions before we wrap up.
I do. I'm going to list 3. So if staff members leave your employ, are they required to destroy information? Can you first get a copy of the information, then ask them to destroy? That's the one question. Then quite a tricky one. In case of an emergency, if a child gets hurt and they need to go to the hospital, you can't get hold of the parents, are you allowed to share information with the medical personnel? And then lastly, a lot of people are asking, will we share the information where they can register their offices, and would we be open to offer more training on this with webinars, etc.? I hope you can remember.
Who's
them.
taking question 1?
What was question 1?
Question 1?
Okay, the one that I can quickly just touch on is number 1 is with the medical service. That one I did touch on a little bit a while ago. As remember, we need to ensure that our kids are safe, that they are okay. So if it's a matter of life and death, then you share the information because it's about the child's well-being. So that's number one. And then number two that I also just want to quickly touch on, Steph, you mentioned something now.
Where do they register to become POPI ACT compliant?
That is the one that Shemaine said.
Sorry, and then staff members leaving.
That's one. According to the Department of Education and the other legal
Teams that
and other legalities that we also need to keep in mind with this one as well is that when the staff member leaves, and let's say it was a registered teacher, whenever the children leave, that is when the information of the staff member will also be deleted. So that is all according to your retention list at the end of the day. So you just need to make sure that you know how long a certain document's being kept. But you can't immediately erase it because there might be questions that needs to be answered at the end of the day. And to make sure, for instance, where you go for an interview, I'm one of those people that actually phones the previous employer, and if you have absolutely no record or recognition of that person at the end of the day, it's going to be very difficult to actually say yes, the person has worked here, or no, they have not, or because you need to go a little bit back into time.
I'm thinking about archives. How will POPI impact archives? If I'm thinking of this and my own scenario and the business that we run, as Zerkia said, I would have staff members that were working with me and I've got all their information and they would leave and I have to retain that information for a certain amount of time. What does a POPI compliant archive then look like? Can I put these things into boxes and date them and put them into a lockable cupboard? What did you envision if they come and they say, I want to know where your archive is? What's that look like?
It's a difficult question to answer, but I will answer it. It's difficult because I don't know the attitude of the people who will come and visit us. But personally, you've answered this yourself, Shemaine. The best security measures you can put in place to store documents will be the correct answer. If you store gold, you will need a very thick safe. If the information is valuable, it will have to be locked. Not in an apple box between your cats and where the dogs lie. So in a locked office, I think will be good enough. You must just make it difficult for whoever would like to access information to access that information. It must not be a matter of walking in and picking it up at reception behind the desk. So if you put in measures to keep the information as safe as reasonably possible. We know you have centers that can spend a lot of money in security and others that can only use a padlock. That will be good enough. To answer you, our firm has been through a FICA audit, and in terms of FICA we also have to keep certain financial information and documents, and it's intertwined with the POPI Act. And they were satisfied with our archives, which is a roll-up door that can lock. It means a thief will have to come and cut the lock or take a blowtorch, whatever. But to just leave it open will not be good enough. I think if it's locked and safe, obviously the more security measures you put in place, the more you protect yourself. But as far as the authorities are concerned, I think if you can just show that you've put in effort to make it difficult or in as far as you are able, impossible for a third party to access, then it will be good enough. But if you have security means available to you, but you decide that, notwithstanding that the fact that I have lockable cupboards, I put sensitive information in apple boxes, you might get into trouble.
Awesome.
I've got two more. One for Zerkia. Can we still take class photos? And then one for Gert, which is, I think, not quite relevant, but maybe as a lawyer you can help us. Are we allowed to keep children out of the school if their parents have not paid their fees?
Okay, so I will answer that question first. I think you will have to be very careful to go there, because I think every child has the right, in terms of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, to education. But contractually, if you're a private institution, you can put in measures to assure that your parent complies with the contract. So it will always be a balancing act between the constitutional right to education for a child and your right as a business owner to make means. So that's why your contract is important, to say that I acknowledge and I am aware of the fact, I contractually agree that if I'm arrears with my fees, these are the steps that the school can take against me. It, amongst others, include the fact that we will not render services to you up until you pay up. And Zerkia mentioned that. You are a private company, your services are educating someone else's child. There are public schools where they can take their children to, and there are free education, I assume, in the world. So your right to education does not mean that you have the right to have free education. So you can do that if you agreed to that previously. It would be very dangerous if you take that step and it has not been agreed upon previously.
If I can just maybe add to that, I'm just thinking free for all. One thing that helped me out quite a lot with this situation is because I do get this question also a lot is, okay, but they're not paying and we're a private school, so, but the child has rights. Yes, we get that. The only thing you do is in your policy, your admission policy, that was the word I couldn't get on. In your admission policy, you actually state and say that, take note that this is a private institution, number one. Number two, should you not be able to afford the school fees anymore, there is public schools within a 5 kilometer radius, here they are. And you list which schools, public schools are there. And you can phone the office for more contact details should it be necessary. But you need to advise them towards, if you are not able to meet the requirements, what can you do to ensure that the child's rights is still upheld? So if you just put that little piece in, you are quite well covered at the end of the day, and because you're not withholding education, and it is a contractual obligation that you agreed upon, and they know that they are not going to get a service for free, but it's a paying service. And then in regards to the class photos, it's exactly the same as we discussed earlier on. Is in your admission form, say we are going to take photos for these and these. Remember, you need to stipulate why. So you're going to say, we are going to take photos, it's going to be processed for
marketing,
advertising, marketing, etc., etc. If you do not like your child to be able to do this, please let us know. And then PT will just not be on the class photo. But remember, I think about ECD centers as a whole, and I think about teenagers, okay, I don't know, semi-teens, anything from the age of 10 going to 13, semi-teens. When they are not, how can I say, incorporated into events like this, they feel that something's wrong. And you can actually pick up in their self-esteem that something's off. And children are very nasty. They love picking on other children. So when a child is excluded from certain activities due to parents that do not want to give consent for certain things, from my side I would like to just ask the teachers, the assistants, the principals, everyone out there, please take that learner and do something awesome with them. So when they are taking photos, don't leave him in the corner watching everybody getting photos taken. Send him around with muffins, or do something where the child is occupied and don't have to look at the scenario created in front of them. It's also not his or her fault that the parent has their reasons for that. I know about children that is in a situation where they are placed in a secure area now because the mum and father needs to testify in court. So those children can't appear nowhere. They've got little alias names and the mom and the dad. So they're already going through trauma. We don't always know what the personal reasons are to why parents don't agree with everything we would like them to agree with. but please look after these children that aren't included and do something amazing and fun with them as well. Or even ask the parent, we know we're not allowed to take photos of the learner for the class photos, but he would like to join. Can we take an individual photo
And
at
send it
least
to you.
and just personally send it to you? Maybe have an agreement on that at least. But make sure that we try always and make sure that our children are okay at the end of the day. I think that's the most important thing.
I want to come back to this, and I want to state emphatically that many of these things you are doing, you just haven't put it down onto paper. There are things that we're going to have to look at. Stephanie asked, will we be adding stuff? We are going to add where you register, etc., onto the website and then as a link. So you'll have to go and do all of that. And it is going to be daunting, but it's like learning to drive a car. I remember when I got into the car the first time, I was petrified. My knees and legs went so numb, I just couldn't get the clutch and everything to work together. Now I drive from point A to point B and I don't even think about it. I will get there and just think, okay, I stopped here. But I don't think through the processes. And POPI is going to be exactly the same. It's a pain now, and there's lots of stuff that has to happen. Is it important? Yes. Is it crucial? Yes. Must you comply? Yes. All of the above. Can you do this on a shoestring budget? Yes. You just have to go, sit down, work it through from point A to point B, make your own checklist that is customized for your circumstances. Go through it and make sure you've done what you could to protect people's personal information. And if you comply with that, you are POPI ACT compliant.
Yeah. If I may summarize that, I'm thinking of a practical way, and I think a practical way of starting is pretend that you are the data source, the parent. Start at reception and give your information in and see the route that that document or information follows and write it down. That is your policy. That is how you deal with other people's information, from reception where you're filling the form to the moment that it's stored, and then you'll know it can be destroyed 5 or 7 years later. If you do that, you'll realize that I'm already doing it, I'm just writing it down now. And that's in simple terms what POPIA is about.
And it's also going to be compliant to anybody in the ECD sector. If you're an extramural activity, you have people's information. And they have yours, so you have to make sure that you comply. If you are a tutor center, you have people's information, you need that. And we are going to transfer information. At the end of the year, we transfer our children with a transfer transcript from the one school to the next with all their information, very confidential. Parents don't even see it, it's from school to school. All of that must be in your policy. As Gert said, just follow the trail, the paper trail, see what happens, follow a digital trail, and then POPI will not be that big. We are going to post a lot of documents. This might freak you out. Don't be freaked out. Take the ones that are relevant, and when you have time, read through them. The more information you can gather, the more comfortable you're going to be with the subject. That's how it works.
And make sure you change it, because my policy is not going to be the same as your policy.
As mine or his or anybody's.
Just make sure when you do get these documents, it's not tailor made. You need to bend it and stretch it a little bit according to how your beliefs are and your systems in your school works, and then you'll be perfectly fine.
Gert, we said that we'd like to put your information on our website. Is that okay with you? So if people then at the end of the day want policies, or they want a new staff contract or something, that we can
Yes.
let them contact you. I don't know what your scenario is and how you would like this to be done.
So my personal information can be shared. I give my permission, it's on record.
Disclaimer.
My weight and age is not necessary to share, but I will share that with people who would like to have that as well. But yeah, in short, yes, I'm available and my information is available. It's in any case publicized on our website as well. So whatever is there will be there. Our telephone number will be, and I'll be open for discussions, and I'm excited to meet new people.
Thank you. Steph, I would like to say thank you for reading all of the questions and comments. We couldn't get to everybody. If we missed your question, we are very sorry that we did. You did ask if we're going to have extra webinars and things. We've had so many requests on things that are coming up and that needs to happen right now, especially with amidst COVID. I think I need to do something on COVID protocols and the SOPs and what you should do if somebody is COVID positive, because that's all I've been doing from morning till night. But we're going to see what we can share. You've seen now that if you become a member, you do get discounted offers as well, like this one was free, and there are some others coming up. Not every webinar will be free though. And then we do have short course training that's also coming up, so that's a little bit of marketing for us. Zerkia, I want to say thank you. Zerkia is principal at our primary school as well, and she's gone above and beyond with POPI. She also didn't know anything, and she started by attending webinars and trying to find out, going through the Act. So anybody can do this. I did exactly the same. We gather as much information as we can to protect our businesses, the people in our care, especially the children that come to us. And Gert, thank you that you spent all this time on the couch with ECD with us, and that you've helped everybody in the sector as much as you have. I know there are a million questions. Number one, find out who your IO is going to be. Most probably that will be the owner or the person in the office. Sorry, ladies and gents, we had a little bit of a hiccup with our camera. It decided to run out of power, but at least we haven't run out of power. So I want to thank everybody that was on the couch today, and for all the information that you were able to bring to the table and the questions that you were able to answer. For the ECDs in our entire sector, for other businesses out there, you have to comply. It is not something that you can duck and dive. It's going to happen. It's here. By the 30th of June, we have to be POPI compliant. It is possible to do this whole thing. Start at the very beginning. Go and look where the paper trail takes you. Make sure that you go onto the website that we're going to share the link of with you, and that you register there, and that you have an IO, an information officer, the person that's going to be working with the paperwork and the data the most. And then keep somewhere in the back of your mind that I've been doing this for a very, very long time. This information and how we handle it is being done. I just have to put it on paper. And then you can contact DDKK if you want to make use of that. You could ask any other lawyers or anybody that you want to work with you on this. But you can't outsource this. That is not the idea, because as we said, not one size does not fit all. We're going to be having a few more webinars on the couch. We're going to be looking at especially COVID compliance, what you should do if somebody is found positive. And then we'll have a few short courses as well. So yeah, we're excited about our new studio and our new technicians and our new setup, because now we'll be able to reach the sector. We're encouraging everybody to become members of EduX SA. The more voices we have, the more we can speak to what's going on in the country, and we can take it to national level. And then the last thing that I want to say is please keep safe. Follow the protocols even if you don't like them. We're receiving a lot of notifications of people that are COVID positive. We're praying for those that are ill and that they'll have a speedy recovery. Doesn't matter how small or how big your organization is, just follow the protocols. Like in this case, try and be compliant and where you can, so that you are covered and you don't get a hiding at the end of the day. Anything from all our speakers? Not.
No,
Thank you for joining us. God bless and keep
Bye.
safe.